Hello, everybody, and welcome to Comics and Coffee, starting your day out the nerdy way. I am Bobby Shortle, and I'm here with Mara Wood.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mara. How are you?
Fantastic. Just,
So we were just talking before. This is both the beginning and end of your summer.
it is. It is. I've had to do my pre-doctoral internship, and yesterday was my last day, and I start my job on Thursday. So I've got a narrow window in which I'm just going to go into a comics, manga, anime coma. Like that's all I've got planned.
Awesome. Definitely, you're seizing life. Seizing life.
That's all
Uh,
I want to do. I've got the
on,
summer goal to. My summer goal was to read all of Fables.
mm,
Because I've been buying all of them and I've been reading quite a bit of it, but I never completely read the entire series. I was like, I'm going to plan out which volumes I have to read each week, and I need to find Jack of Fables, and I've got all the supplemental stuff in line. And then it's like, it's July 31st, and I'm on like volume 13 or something. Like I'm not very far at all, so I may be reading a lot of Fables.
yeah, volume 13. That's like halfway.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of fables.
There's a lot of Fables.
Yeah, like 24 or 25 volumes, I think.
20, 22 volumes. And
22
the last,
volumes.
the last volume is the last issue.
Mm.
So that's just how it came out.
Oh, awesome. I love your mug, by the way, Mara.
Thank you.
Some Wonder Woman action. Well, actually, in Loot Crate this month, they had a little Wonder Woman poster that was the DC Bombshells version.
Oh,
The
really?
new, yeah,
That's
yeah.
my laptop sticker. Like I have her like breaking the chains on the outside my laptop,
Mm-hmm.
and like it's pretty cool. It's different, but there was one time I was at Barnes and Noble working on some school stuff, and this old man comes up to me and he's like, "That's an interesting sticker you have on your laptop." I was like, "I like Wonder Woman." I don't know how to
um,
handle those situations when someone points out something. I'm like, I like comics.
yeah. It's weird. It's so strange because the only time I feel self-conscious about it is when I'm doing what otherwise are mundane adult tasks, but I'm doing something with comic books. So when I go to like get my oil changed or something, and I'm in like the waiting room of the mechanic, and I'm reading like Justice League,
Mm-hmm.
and there are other like adult people there, like reading the newspaper and stuff. That's the only time where I don't feel ashamed, but I feel slightly awkward. Like
Yeah.
this does not feel like I should be doing this right now, and I can. But what always happens is there's always inevitably an adult who has a kid with them,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like staring at me because I'm holding up a comic book.
You got the fun thing in the room.
Yeah, and at one point I was reading Justice League, and I hear this little voice go, "Daddy, it's Batman." So that kind of evens it out. But that's the only time where I feel weird about reading comic stuff in public. Like when I'm like taking an airplane or a bus or a train, I don't feel weird at all. But it's just in those type of situations
Right.
where I feel like the sore thumb that's sticking out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So to say on the show, Mara is going to do what she does best, I guess, other than be a great academic and give us some manga recommendations for a couple of people who are fans of a couple of really really big comic book series.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Mara, you mentioned about reading Fables. I've been trying to backlog stuff as well and try to get through stuff. And I have been collecting Loki, Agent of Asgard
Mm-hmm.
since the beginning, but I'd only read, I think, the first 4 issues,
Yeah.
and we're on issue 16 or something like that at this point. So last night, yesterday and also last night, I kind of went through and read up until the last day stuff. So about issue 4 through issue 15.
Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely loved it. I mean, I'm a huge fan of the Journey into Mystery, Kieran Gillen stuff, where he dealt with the Kid Loki stuff and then into Young Avengers. which kind of completed that arc
Right.
of that character. And Al Ewing has done a really good job of continuing that story of the character and using that very complicated mythology they built up for him, which is that, he was evil adult Loki. He died and was reborn as a child to try and give himself a fresh start so that he could not be the bad guy. But then, and this is sort of a spoiler, I guess, for Young Avengers, but it's about 2 years old, so I don't feel too bad. Sort of the spirit of older Loki, in order to really save the world, has to sacrifice younger Loki and kind of take his old life back. So he's kind of back to this person who's on the path into evil again. And it's a very complicated thing, and they've done a really good job dealing with that and dealing with this new character who wants redemption, but maybe there's no way he can get redemption. Have you read any of it, Mara?
I have not read any of the Loki stuff. I've read Young Avengers. I think that was a good series, and I kept up with that pretty well. And I've read bits and pieces of the Kieran Gillen Journey into Mystery stuff, and I liked it. But as soon as he turned into a teenager, he was less interesting to me. It's like I like Kid Loki a lot better than any other version.
Yeah, and I feel. I mean, I felt the same way. I'm a huge fan of that Kid Loki character. He's one of my favorite characters. But they've done a good job. Al Ewing has done a very good job of filling out his character in really interesting ways, and has made it a book, I think, that is well worth reading, and a character that is interesting in his own right. He's really kind of made his own stamp on what it does, and it really plays with the idea of expectation and fate, and if people know you as one thing, even if, I mean, in Loki's case, it's the god of lies and the god of evil, but in any way, if they know you as anything, if you are the procrastinator or the overachiever, or you have quick temper and you try to change, and if you do change, a lot of the people in your life are still going to see you as that person and still sort of be like, oh, you're going to lose your temper, that kind of thing, to the point where maybe you can't escape it because you're kind of held down by that stuff. And it really deals with that, and I think in a really, really clever way. So I've been really enjoying it.
It's kind of like that feeling where when you go back to your hometown and people see you the way you were in high school or the way you were in middle school, things like that.
100%. I think we've all dealt with it in our lives as we've gotten older, and kind of wanting to break free of some of the chains that we kind of put on ourselves as younger people, the mistakes that we've made, maybe the attitudes that we've had. You want to break free of those things, but sometimes it's hard when you're around people that have known you forever, because they still see you as that person. So it's tough for you to break free of it. But like I said, it raises interesting stuff. It's cool conversation piece. So I really recommend it. Loki, Agent of Asgard has been really, really great. And I hope that in some ways, at least that character continues post that story. But yeah, that's been my comic book reading for this week. I have my books, together. I picked up new issue of Sex Criminals, which I'm very excited about.
Yeah, it's good.
I haven't read it yet. It was in like a wrapper and stuff.
I haven't opened mine yet.
Really?
I went onto my Comixology account, and I guess my husband had bought the digital copy so that we wouldn't have to open the paper one that we bought. But as soon as it came in, because we order from our comic shop like 2.5 hours away, and he sends it to us free each week. Like, it's a great setup, even though I get my comics like on Thursday or Friday. But anyway, I got my box yesterday. I was like, I really just want to open this bag and take a look at it and everything, but I don't know. It's like, what's the point of keeping it in the bag?
Yeah, I know.
It's meant to shame the world.
Yeah. I mean, if people haven't seen it, it says on the cover that it's possible that inside is a sketch cover by Fraction and Zdarsky. I don't know if that's actually true, or it's just them, again, like being like,
It is. My friend got one.
Oh, okay.
And, it's pretty cool. I was very jealous that he got it, and I mean, I'm pretty sure I didn't get it. I mean, I haven't opened it yet, but who knows? But it's a very happy penis on the cover.
Nice. Which to be expected.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed if it was anything less. The real cover is awesome though. It's this very like negative spacey, very hip, cool cover of the two of them on the front. I'm excited. It's been a while since the last issue, so I'm excited to read it. Yeah, and 2 Batgirl books this week, so I'm excited about those as well.
Yes, yes, and I'm excited. I love Barbara and Dick Grayson together. I get like Natasha and Bucky feels when I read about Barbara and Dick. I'm just like, you guys belong together. Kiss now. So it was a great issue for me, the annual.
Awesome. I'm excited to read it. Some really good artists on there too, which I think is cool. David Fuentes and Bengal and stuff.
Ming Doyle's on it too.
Ming Doyle as well. So I'm excited to check that out. And in addition to the regular issue as well, which I've been loving that series, obviously. So Mara, manga. I want to know. So I was talking to Hugh on the Brewed and Boarded Patreon only stream this past week, and I said, "Listen, Hugh, I need some recommendations on manga." I asked Mara, but she's so deep in it that I'm not sure if I need something. If I can trust her opinion. That's what I told him. This might be quite honest with you. I said, I need to know something that is just like base level stuff, and he told me to maybe check out Death Note as far as anime goes.
Yes.
Sorry, not manga, anime. But for manga, I always think about a lot of the way you get people to read stuff or check stuff out is if you like this thing, you'll like this thing. And 2 of the most popular series out right now are Sex Criminals, as we just mentioned, and Batman, the Scott Snyder's Batman. And so I thought maybe giving some recommendation based on if you like those books, this is stuff you can check out. And I don't know what Mara's going to say yet, but when Mara does her thing, I'm going to go on and I'm going to create a Amazon wish list, or Amazon list of those things so people can check them out and can buy them if they so desire. So Mara, why don't you go ahead? You take over.
I do want to second Q's recommendation for Death Note. I mean, that's pretty much a series that, as far as manga goes, it's a great introduction to it because it doesn't have a lot of those silly elements that some manga have, and it's short. It's only 12 volumes long, and then you're done. And the anime is great as well, and it's one of those series where there's not a wasted panel. Like everything leads up to the final moment. So good job, Hugh. That's usually my go-to. But
I was in the comic shop the other day and I saw the Death Note volumes, and they're very cool, all black volumes.
It's like gothic horror, and I mean it's all about death. That's really what it's about. So for Batman, and I just want to say for both those comics, for Batman and Sex Criminals, you're not going to find anything that's exactly like it anywhere else. I mean, they're so unique, and that's what makes them great series. That's why we like them so much, because they bring something fresh and something new. So when I was approaching this, I was thinking of the different elements that these 2 series bring and how we can take those elements and explore them in a different way, in a different medium. So Batman is a detective. He deals a lot with mysteries and murders, although it doesn't seem like he does it a whole lot in TV shows and things like that. He's mostly punching. But if you like the detective, if you like the guy that goes and solves the mystery, who deals with criminals, you should check out Monster. And that's by, I have it all. You see here, like I prepared for this.
I would expect nothing less, Mara.
By Naoki Urasawa. And it's an older manga, and it's being republished by Viz. And it's about a Japanese doctor in Germany who is a surgeon, and he's at the top of his field. And, one day in the hospital, 2 patients come in. One's a little boy who was shot, and another one's the mayor who had a heart attack. And the boy came in first, and the doctor was prepping to go and work on the boy. And the whole hospital was telling him, ignore the boy. You have to go work on the mayor. You cannot work on the boy. You have to, let him die or whatever. And the doctor refused, so he went to go work with the boy. So a lesser surgeon went to help the mayor. Mayor died. He basically lost his job at the hospital. It's all politics there. Well, that boy ends up growing up to be basically a serial killer. So this doctor is trying to research the boy's past and go through all these things and at the same time, he's being blamed and ostracized by the community, and all these terrible, terrible things are happening to him, but he's still determined to do justice, to have that, he has that moral obligation to help the boy and help fix whatever wrong he's done. Or, you know, he's also dealing with the whole, I saved him, but should I have saved him? If I had known what I know now, would I have still operated on him? So, like I said, it's an older manga being republished in these huge, massive volumes. You can see, like, I take notes when I read. I take lots of notes. Lots of religious symbolism, lots of guilt, lots of regret, and just all sorts of really cool things. And it's a psychological drama, and it's ideal for older audiences. I think it's rated T+, but you know, take that with a grain of salt.
All right.
And so, Monster. And then I thought about the
By the way,
Rogues Gallery.
Hugh just wrote in and said Monster is awesome.
It is. It's so good. I love like that Viz has been republishing them in this huge, massive volumes. So it's like updated translations. Everything's crisp and clean because, like I said, it is an older series. So sometimes, you know, things fade, things look bad over time. So, so that's kind of like the detective part of Batman. Now, if you're more into Arkham Asylum and villains and Rogues Gallery, I would recommend Dead Men Wonderland. And that is also published by Viz. And it's written by Jinsei Kataoka and drawn by Kazuma Kondo. And this series is about a middle school boy who one day he's in his classroom and a mysterious being shows up and basically kills everyone in his classroom. He's the only one alive, and then he's basically blamed for killing all of them and sent to prison as a middle schooler. Like, it's insane. But the prison is actually an amusement park where the prisoners have collars on their neck and they're basically entertaining audiences. It's kind of like gladiators, basically. And so you're full of all these serial killers and horrible people, and they're fighting. There's gore and blood and everything like that. And there's also kind of that mystery of who was it that showed up to the classroom and who killed all these kids, and how can I, you know, this little middle schooler, get out of this situation? So it's pretty cool. You know, I've only read about the first volume, and this one's the third, and I have the fifth one because I get review copies for this series sometimes. But there's also an anime based on it. So if you want to skip the manga part and just go to anime, you can check that out too. It is very gory and bloody, and this one's also rated T+. Okay, so if you're more of a Gotham Central kind of person and you love the police force and you love the interactions between people as they solve mysteries and things like that, I would recommend Ghost in the Shell.
I've heard of that one, Mara.
Oh my goodness. There's a reason you've heard of it, because it is awesome. Admittedly, I like the anime more than the manga. And I think in part because the anime makes the main character, Motoko Kusanagi, the major, more serious and stoic and capable, whereas the manga, she's a little bit goofier, but she still gets the job done. She still does what she sets out to do. So this is a future Japan, and this group of people are in charge of protecting the world from cyber terrorism. So they're doing a lot of technology, a lot of hacking, a lot of going out and finding terrorists and things like that. And it's really good, and it's got like a diverse cast. So if you're more, you know, into that, like I said, the Gotham Central, the Gotham Police, Jim Gordon, that kind of stuff, this is a thing to check out. And then finally, and I don't have a copy of this, I wish I did, there is the Bat manga.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever read it.
I have not, no.
If you're more of a fan of the Cheesecake Batman from the 60s,
Mm-hmm.
and you like Batman 66 and you like the television show, this manga is right up your alley. I mean, that it taps into that 100%, and it's almost too, it's a little too much for me, but I also don't seek out the Batman 60s You know what I mean? Like I have them on Blu-ray, but I don't care to watch them as much. But if you like it, you would love this series because it's so cheesy and it's so funny and it's so, yeah, you know what I mean? So definitely look into that. And it's actually published by DC Comics, and they have the digital first installments of it as well. So.
Oh, cool. Yeah, a new volume of it just came out like a couple weeks ago.
I think. Really? Like I said,
yeah.
I've read part of the first volume.
I think volume 2, I think came out. Volume 2 or 3 came out just a couple weeks ago. I saw it in the store. So
cool. Yeah. So those are some of my recommendations for Batman fans. And like I said, it's hard to find a manga that taps into exactly what Batman is overall. But Batman's been around for like 70-something years. You know what I mean? He's had time to explore in different directions, and a lot of these manga series are kind of like, you know, tell a certain story, done.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's a little bit different. And then Sex Criminals, which was really hard. I had to do some digging on that one. Okay. But for Sex Criminals, what stands out to me most is just kind of the insane nature of the plot, like just how weird and how off the wall it is. So tapping into that aspect of it, I would recommend Welcome to the NHK. And that one is written by Kazuhiko Takimoto. And it follows the story of Sato, who is not employed, educated, or trained. He lives at home. He doesn't do anything. He's completely a bum. And that's kind of, a lot of people consider that like a big problem in Japan, that all these young 20-something-year-olds are not entering the workforce. They're not entering college. They're just not doing anything at all. And part of that is, you know, there's social anxiety, there's ideas of failure, there's pressure. And so there's a lot of mental health aspects into it. So you see that creep up in Welcome to the NHK. But what makes it like such a weird, crazy story is that he like takes drugs and then comes into this realization that the NHK, which is kind of like Japan's big broadcasting company, has a conspiracy to turn young adults into these unemployed, uneducated people. So it's not really, it's all in his head. Like that's not real. Like he believes that they're out to get him. It's a little bit of paranoia. And, you know, he meets with this girl once a week who is trying to teach him to interact with the world. So he's got that interaction, but at the same time, he's trying to build up his work thing. So he meets up with his neighbor who used to go to high school with him, and they decide to make a porn video game together. And that's where the crazy part comes in.
Right. Okay.
So you're getting a lot of those tropes for, you know, like Lolita or Moe, you know, all that kind of stuff coming in, and they're trying to figure out like, who's our heroine, and you know, what do we do about rape scenarios and all this kind of weird stuff. And he's trying to navigate that at the same time his mom is like coming over to his apartment. Why don't you have a girlfriend? Why aren't you employed? Is this a real company? You're such a liar. So there's also an anime based on it. So if you're, you know, wanting to skip the manga and just go to anime, you can do that too. But the manga has more of like the dirty stuff in it. So if you came to the party for the dirty things, don't go the anime route. Speaking of dirty things, the other one, I you know, Sex Criminals is so out there. Like I said, there's nothing similar to it in any medium. But like I said, I tried to pick apart pieces, and one piece of Sex Criminals that I really like is the sexual education nature of it. The idea of the letters columns trying to give information, the idea that sometimes in the issue they have scenes where a gynecologist is explaining things, or they're talking very frankly about subjects and things like that. So one manga that is basically only that is called Manga Sutra.
Okay.
And that is by Katsuaki. And it's by Tokyo Pop, and it's out of print. But if you look around the internet, you can probably find scans of it. So the story opens with a couple who are in an arranged marriage. They've never met before. They get married, and it's like, okay, so what do we do next? And the whole series is about this newlywed couple exploring sex. And along the way, the author provides facts and polls and information. And, a lot of the plot devices are, the guy's not lasting as long. What can we do differently to help? I mean, that's just kind of how the manga goes. So it's very out there. I would not read it in public at all. Like, it is as close to pornographic as you can possibly get without actually being porn. But it's hilarious. The characters are really funny and genuine. And like I said, it's got a lot of the sex education in it. It's older, so I don't know how much the stats play out today. But it's still interesting to read. It's still kind of a fun
Cool.
manga. So,
Awesome.
yeah, that's what I got for today.
That's awesome, Mara. Thank you so much. I made the list, and I'll make the Amazon thing, and I'll put a link to it in the post once it's up. We had a couple of comments and questions. James Hammond is asking. Well, he was wondering about if Lament of the Lamb was on the list. Obviously, it's not. But have you ever read it? He said it's the best vampire manga he's ever seen.
I haven't read that one, but I was like this close to recommending Rosario to Vampire for sex criminals just because of the panty shots. Seriously,
Really,
like that was
really distilling sex criminals down to its core.
panty shot. But I had not read that one, and I'm sure I have a pin somewhere. Lament of the Lamb.
All right. So Mike, who's at Liberal Bastion, wants to know. Well, he's thinking of starting a feminist like book club or comic club in his town. So he wants to know something to read, something to do for a first book that's not kind of one of the obvious ones.
Yeah.
And he also wants to know, is there any manga that gets into political stuff like feminism, progressivism, etc.?
As far as like feminism goes, a lot of the magical girl series are really good about that because, they're trying to teach readers that you can retain your feminine nature while also being powerful. So a lot of what I think of as Magic Knight Ray Earth and Sailor Moon and Cardcaptor Sakura, things like that. But as far as like the political and progressive, I would think Full Metal Alchemist might be good for that.
Okay.
Just because, but that's such a huge series and you don't really benefit from all of it unless you read all of it.
Okay. Interesting.
And I'm like looking over my shelf right now, seeing if there's anything I have that would play into that. I would think Monster might be good for that too. Okay. Not so much the feminism part, but like the political nature.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
I'll have to think on that one a little bit more. I'm gonna write that
Okay.
down.
So how you tell you're an academic.
Yeah. Always carry a notebook. Always have Post-its.
Yeah. So what about something, a feminist comic, not necessarily manga, that he could use for his book club?
Bitch Planet.
I think that would be considered one of the obvious ones.
That's an obvious. That's very obvious. But,
yeah.
Let's see. Well, when I think like a feminist comic, I'm thinking a comic that, has a woman with agency in it.
Of course, right.
A woman who kind of directs what she's doing and is in control. So I would think something like Stumptown, or like haven't read it, but I've heard Queen and Country is really good as well.
Okay. I mean, Rucka's pretty good with that in general.
Yeah, like usually anything Rucka. Of course, like Rucka's Wonder Woman is, but I think that might be out of print.
I don't know if it's out. I don't think so.
I know you can buy it digitally for sure.
Yeah, and the local store here, they have like all of it.
Okay.
So I mean, that doesn't mean it's not out of print, but I think you can probably get it.
Mm-hmm.
Lazarus as well.
Yes.
That's easy to get, obviously.
Lazarus is so good.
Yeah.
And Lumberjanes, of course, like things like Lumberjanes and Giant Days that are less superhero and more women interacting with each other without talking about men or being
Yeah.
catty to each other or anything like that. That's
Right,
always
absolutely.
to look for when you're
Yeah, absolutely. And Lisa, who's at O Crush, is asking, do we think the Jenna Malone as Batgirl rumors or as Barbara Gordon rumors are true in Batman v Superman? Have you heard about this, Mara?
I've heard about that. I was like, well, I could see that happening. I could see that.
Yeah, yeah. I think it makes sense because, I mean, I don't know if Jenna Malone is going to end up being who plays her, but the way they're setting up Batman in the movie as someone who's been Batman for 20 years and has had a Robin that he's lost, at least one that he's lost. We don't know if Dick Grayson is part of the equation as well or whatever. It makes sense that there would be a Barbara Gordon in that situation.
There has to be. It would almost be offensive if there wasn't.
Yeah. Whether she's going to be Batgirl or whether she's going to be Oracle or whether she's to start the movie, we don't know. You would assume, though, if it's been 20 years of Batman, that she would be Oracle by now, but I feel like we would have heard about that by now. We would have heard shots of Jenna Malone on set in a wheelchair or something. You know, we would have heard about, because the rumor with her was that she might have been playing Carrie Kelly.
Really?
Yeah, that was the initial rumor with her, because they won't say who she's playing, and when they do that, she's playing somebody important that they just won't, that the name means something. They either do that or they give you a name that means nothing, and then you know it's really somebody who means something. It's like with Marion Cotillard in Dark Knight Rises, when they're like, she's Miranda Tate. I'm like, okay, she's Talia al Ghul.
Yeah,
you know, 100%. This name that means nothing. Obviously, she's playing somebody big. So I think that she'll end up being somebody big. It would be cool if it was Barbara. I would love to see Barbara in a movie. I think that'd be a great thing to have. And you know, I'm in love with the Bat family in general. Like, I love the concept of the Bat family.
Yeah.
And it would be really nice to finally see that stuff start to play out in some way. And I think for all the criticisms I have of Batman, Superman, and the idea of it, and the trailers I've seen, the one thing I do really like is this idea that we're not starting from square one again with Batman, that he has had a life and he's been a hero for a long time. And he has his own universe already set up, and we're diving into that, because that allows you to have things like Barbara Gordon and Dick Grayson and Jason Todd and hopefully others. You know, I was just talking the other day, I think on the podcast, because I read DC Bombshells, and Kate Kane is like the main character of that first issue.
I can't hear you anymore. Technical difficulties.
This isn't going to sound good, but I had to change my microphone because my microphone died. This is what happened. It's I have a wireless microphone. It's good though, because we're almost done anyway. Okay. So yeah, I love the Bat family. I was just saying, Kate Kane is the main character in DC Bombshells, Batwoman, and I just love that character so much. And so the idea of that possibly that being something we see in a movie somewhere would be amazing. So I'm looking forward to that. But that's going to do it for Comics and Coffee this week. Mara, thank you so much for spending your only Friday of the summer totally free with us. Thank you for the recommendations. I'm going to make that list and we'll put it up. And Mara, if you want to add anything to the post, you know, for any of the other recommendations, feel free to throw them in there. I'm sure people would appreciate it.
Yeah, something comes to mind, I'll definitely let you know.
Yeah. I'm at Bobby Shortle on Twitter. Mara.
At Mega Maramon.
Awesome. And I love that you have Destroyer in your banner down there.
Yeah.
And that's going to do it for Comics and Coffee. Thank you for starting your day out the nerdy way with us, and we will see you next week.